and welcome back to Mother Tongue, your eyes, ears, and finger on the pulse for all parents around the world. Let's get going, shall we?
We are so incredibly excited to welcome Erin Schlozman to Mother Tongue. Erin, did I say your name right?
You did. You got it. Excellent.
Yay! Oh my God. Okay, I feel quite proud that I've actually conquered that on a Monday evening at 7 p.m. I mean,
Yes.
that is winning at life, isn't it?
That is winning at life. Yes. Yes. I even have moments where I'm like, how did this end up my last name?
Oh, I love that. Anyway, Erin, before we get into all the good stuff in today's
Sure.
conversation, can you start by telling our lovely listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So my name's Erin. We covered that already. I am the mom and the face and the founder behind the Instagram account Fourth Trimester Wellness. So outside of familiarity with that account, I'm a licensed therapist, a consultant, a author. I just wrote my first book, and kind of all things becoming a mom. So whereas a lot of what we see on the internet is about how to be a parent, I talk about how to embrace being a mom, because I don't think that motherhood is just about our kids. It's about us too, and it's a huge transformation. And so that's kind of like the pillar that I stand on. Like, it's as much about you as it is about your kids. And I like to support new parents. New mom.
I love this. I think this is seriously important and often very much overlooked, mostly by the mums themselves.
Yeah.
Who are just like, oh, I'm a mum now, so I'm going to give everything up for this small little human and not look after myself anymore, which when you look at it like that, just seems very mental.
Well, and I get it. Like, we want to raise little people that don't turn into like scary adults, but also there's no medal at the end of 18 years for being like the most burnt out version of yourself. And I think modern moms get a lot of mixed messages about like self-care and prioritizing and self-sacrifice and all of these different things. So those are the things that I talk about. Those are the things I talk about.
It's so interesting. And I mean, I want to get into all of this good stuff, but I wanted to start by asking, this is obviously quite a niche career path. Has this been something that you've always done, or did this journey start when you became a mum yourself?
Yes. So I was a therapist before I became a mom. I was already licensed. I was at the time working in a hospital when I got pregnant with my first. My son was born in the hospital where I was working. So I was like, hey, social workers that I know, hey, nurses that I know. And birth didn't go as I had expected, because most of the time it doesn't. And nursing didn't go as I expected, because most of the time it doesn't. And so I was an established therapist in this community, and I had a hard time finding support. And I was like, if I'm having a hard time finding support, how is a mom who has no means of navigating the health system supposed to be able to get support? And then I was like, I'm going to be that support. So I did additional training with the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, Postpartum Support International, all of the different things. And that is when I started to like niche down and work with new parents. So in my private practice, I started by doing walk and talk sessions. I would meet new moms at their house. And if they wanted to sit on the couch, we would sit on the couch. If they wanted to go for a walk, we would go for a walk. The goal was to eliminate as many barriers for new parents as possible, so that moms could just be getting the support that they need without having to worry about like getting somewhere on time, or if the baby needs to eat or nap, or the baby pooped and had a blowout, and all of the things that can happen. So therapy I've been doing forever. Therapy with moms in particular over the last probably 7-8 years.
Wow. There's so much I want to unpack here, because I have 3 children now, and I feel like every single time the whole kind of postpartum period from a hormonal and mental health standpoint has hit me wildly different. Well, I think it's all probably been semi-similar, but I've accepted it differently each time.
Yeah.
And this time round has probably been one of the hardest adjustments in many ways, but I feel like a lot of it to do is with the fact that I'm so much mentally aware of my own mental well-being.
How
essentially.
old are your kids, if you don't mind me asking?
So I have a 4.5-year-old, a near 3-year-old, and a 4-month-old.
Ooh, you have a teeny tiny.
A teeny
Also,
tiny.
Can we talk about 4-year-olds? They're insane. I don't know if yours is. Mine is.
Well, do you know what? My 4-year-old went through, when he first became 4, we went through a very whiny phase for about 6 months, and it was just whine, 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 whine. Now we're in a kind of like, we're kind of starting to level, chill out. I feel like we edge closer to 5. Life is getting a bit easier. My daughter, on the other hand, who's the near 3-year-old, she'll be 3 in 2 days. She's going to be my handful. She's like my typical middle child. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could write. You didn't even need to see her. You could just describe her.
Yeah.
She's very, very middle child. And my youngest, obviously, he's 4 months. So, we're yet
to be determined. Yeah.
Exactly. But it has, I feel like the last kind of, let's call it 18 months, I've been on a real journey with therapy. I was very, not against therapy before this point, but before I had children, I was, in my mind, I was like, I'm very mentally stable. I didn't really feel any form of guilt unless it was warranted. Anxiety wasn't really a thing. I kind of lived my own life, did my own thing, and then I had my first kid, and I've never been hit by a bus as hard as I had in that instant. Not only was I like, oh my gosh, do I have to do this every day for the rest of my life? Do I have to do bath and bed for the foreseeable future? Like, it felt like Groundhog Day. I was like, I can't get out of this.
Yeah.
And then when I started to kind of get used to the fact that this was motherhood and this was life, I then got whacked with intrusive thoughts and a whole load of other mental issues. And now looking back, I definitely had some form of like postpartum depression, baby blues. And the more I speak to mums, this is actually a super common thing. But what do you think, from your experience, is the most common emotional challenges that you see with new mums?
So I recently read a study that said somewhere between 70% and 100% of new moms experience intrusive thoughts, whether it's related to a perinatal mood disorder or not. 100% of new moms are experiencing thoughts that are scaring them. Like, what if I left my hair straightener on and the house burns down? What if I didn't lock the front door and somebody comes into our house? What if I get into a car accident? What if the baby slips in the bathtub? What if I dunk the baby in the bathtub? All of these different types of things. And so I've found that in my therapy practice, being able to not necessarily normalize scary thoughts, because a scary thought's a scary thought, but like normalize that this is a really common experience, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're experiencing postpartum depression or anxiety. I like to reframe it as a protective aspect. So like thousands of years ago, moms were protecting babies from snakes. Like, they had to be hyper vigilant also to protect their kids from the dangers around them. In modern now, the dangers are different, and I think a lot of times these intrusive thoughts are really just protective, like making sure you're okay, making sure your baby's okay, making sure that all okay, that everybody's going to be okay. But I think intrusive outside of diagnosing like postpartum psychosis, OCD, PTSD, anxiety, depression, I think the most common symptom that I at least hear about is intrusive thoughts, because it carries a lot of shame also. So like, I'm a mom, I'm not supposed to be thinking these things, or I'm not supposed to be feeling these things. And I don't think we're used to being scared of our own thoughts, or most of us aren't, at least.
No, exactly. And I remember the first time it happened to me, I actually was like, oh my gosh, someone's going to have to put me in a mental institute.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was happening until I actually spoke to a therapist, and they were like, no, this is quite normal. Don't worry. And I was like, oh, thank God. Why has no one told me this?
Yes.
And
there's a difference from like a therapeutic lens. There's a difference between having a thought and having a plan and an action and the ways and means. Like a thought is a thought. They come and they go.
This is very true. And you touched upon OCD there, which I think is really interesting because, again, this is something when I'm overstressed or overtired or very touched out or just overstimulated, overwhelmed, all the overs. OCD, since I've had children, has been one of those things that has come out in full force. Like, I can get really obsessive about locking doors and checking doors are locked. And in my mind, I can talk myself into, oh my God, no, you haven't locked that door. And I'm like, no, but you've checked like 5 times, Marianne, you have locked the door. But then my mind's like, oh my God, but what happens if you haven't really locked the door and then someone comes in and steals all your children? And I'm
So
like,
you have
oh
to
my
go
God,
check
let's
the
go
door.
check the door.
Yeah. Yes. It's funny.
Why is this a motherhood thing?
So just personally, like I know where my anxiety levels are depending on like how many times I ask my husband to go make sure that the back door is locked. Like if it's never, then I'm usually doing fine. And if it's constantly, I think again, part of it is protective. I think another part, so the thing with OCD is a lot of the characteristics can be, it can be OCD, it can also be anxiety, and it can also just be like normal parenting, like wanting to make sure that everything's okay. I mean, at least for me, if I see a mom who I'm particularly concerned about, I always make a referral to a psychiatrist to have not a like, do you need to go to do you need to be hospitalized, but like to get a fuller
Do you need some
history.
help?
Yeah, do you need some support? Because there's lots of medications that help also. Do you personally have a history of anxiety or OCD, or does it run in your family?
No. And I
Yeah.
mean, if I ever said to my parents, like when my parents were the generation that if I said to them, oh my gosh, I've got really bad anxiety, they'll be like, you'll be fine.
Or like,
You'll
what
be
does that even,
fine.
what does that mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they don't feel feelings like our generation do, and that's something I definitely want to touch upon today. Now we've kind
Yeah.
of opened this Pandora's box.
Yeah.
But no, it's very bizarrely. I mean, I think it's one of two things. I think I either kind of buried it down and kind of forgot about it before I had kids, and adding kids into my busy life has basically just exploded the box, and everything is now like splattered all over the wall. And it's literally like, well, you now have to deal with all these things that you're feeling and all these weird tendencies.
I have another
But
therapist
yeah,
question. Before you had kids, have you always found yourself to be high achieving? So, like in the goals that you set in all of the areas of your life? Yes.
yes, I very much so.
Yeah.
I have very high standards for
Yes.
myself, but I also can't sit still. So the other train, and I want to come on to this conversation because I've talked to a lot of mums about this recently, is the overdiagnosis of ADHD, but the overdiagnosis, well, is it even overdiagnosis of mums who are now being told they have ADHD post having children?
It's interesting, isn't it?
The fast-paced world that we live in now, you know, people are saying everyone's being overdiagnosed, but we've now got social media. There is no switching off when you have kids now. You have your kids, you're online, Instagram, everything else that kind of goes around, all this information being
Yes.
constantly ping, 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 ping. And I mean, it's no wonder that we can't sleep, that we can't shut down, we can't reset. And I mean, I think that's why people are probably like, oh yeah, you've got ADHD, because I'm like this. Ming, ming, ming.
Yeah.
And
So
I think most mums are like this. I'm not alone in this issue.
no, and there's also a big surge in like highly sensitive. I don't know if you've heard that too. So
Yes.
like highly sensitive moms. I think a lot of things. I don't have the qualifications to diagnose someone as ADHD or ADD, but I can definitely say that we are underconnected in personal relationships and we are overconnected in parasocial relationships. And the outside stimuli is constant. So for a mom today to have quiet, you have to make an effort to be doing something quiet. Like going for a walk outside without headphones, without your phone, without music, without any of the things. I think it's much more challenging for moms nowadays to be present than it has been in the past, because it's like there's a TV screen, there's a phone screen, there's an iPad screen, there's an Amazon screen, there's a gazillion screens. The input is constant. Listening to podcasts while you're working, listening to music while you're working out, and we're never just I don't want to say never, but like rarely are we ever really present in the moment that we are in without thinking about what has to happen next, who has to be dropped off where, who has to be picked up where. And so, I'm sure there's plenty of moms that the ADHD comes out in parenthood for them, but I also think none of us are being encouraged to slow down or calm down or like take a shower, take your time while taking a shower. And I know it's this I know there's a whole, there's so many conversations about, well, like if I'm not doing it, then nobody's going to do it. But also some things are okay to be like left undone. And I don't think we're told that enough, that like you can leave things undone. It's hard and it doesn't feel natural, but like when it comes to regulating your nervous system and making sure that whatever mess is cleaned up at that moment, I think reframing the priority to like regulating your nervous system is something we're really bad at, and we should start working on.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, you say the word regulate your nervous system, and I mean, I know, go outside, take a few deep breaths. Like, there's all the things that you listen to. I'm like, I'm going to get this under control. I'll listen to a podcast about it. Do I do it? No. So
Right.
can you give us some good tips on how we can kind of regulate our nervous system easily or quickly?
So anything outside without any, and like your kids can be, it doesn't have to be childless, because I talk about this a lot too. Like, self-care for a mom is very different than self-care for someone before they have babies. It's just like, I'm not going to a half day at a spa. I don't have the time. I'm not doing that. So there's a couple of things. I learned this from an occupational therapist. Eating crunchy food. So like if you make a bowl of yogurt with granola, that crunching can help regulate your nervous system. Drinking a really cold glass of water, that can help regulate your nervous system. On a more like skills based, I like to do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with new moms. So like, tell me 5 things you see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can touch, 1 thing you can taste. And that like immediately brings you back into your senses, because you have to become observant of what is around you. So there's different ways to do it. There's like push and pulls. So we respond differently to different types of pressure. Moms tend to get really touched out because of like light touch. But if you like ask a partner to give you like the biggest, hardest bear hug that they can, if you have a partner, that's going to feel more regulating than little hands that are all over you. Or like putting a baby in a stroller and then putting like weights at the bottom and pushing heavier weights is going to be more regulating than just like regular strolling with the stroller. Or, just pile them into like a three in a row stroller and go for it.
Yeah. God. That's the thing now. I mean, I probably sound bad saying this, but when they're small, you're like, oh my God, I can't wait for them to talk. And then when they get bigger and all they say, mummy, 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 mummy. And if they're not saying mummy, they're like rolling on me.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on my face. I'm like, where is the personal space, people? Come on.
There is none. There's also evidence now that modern moms spend more time hour for hour with their kids than any other moms in history. And I don't think we pay enough attention to that like, you want to have an identity outside of motherhood. You're spending all of this time. A lot of us now too had kids during COVID, and so we are like so overstimulated just by our kids, so overstimulated. And so I think finding the skills, those grounding skills that work for you, can be really helpful.
And then what role do hormones play in this? Because I do know in myself that, you know, I have been like this since I became a mum, sadly. There's been ups and downs, but it is definitely so much worse when I'm kind of going through that postpartum period.
Yes.
Can you just explain a little bit how the hormones work during that period
Yes.
of time and how long we can expect this kind of postpartum period to last?
Yes. So I talk about this a lot. We go from being pregnant to not pregnant within a matter of minutes. It is one of, I think it might be the biggest hormonal drop that happens across any event in our lives. So you're immediately, you're getting the love hormones, you have adrenaline, but like immediately the hormones that your body needed to grow a healthy baby are dropping because the baby is born and out of your body. So there's different stages of postpartum in terms of postpartum. I mean, postpartum mood disorders can come at any point, year plus. Okay, I'll leave it at this because you asked a good question. It's a very complicated question with a lot of different answers. There have been babies' fetal DNA found in moms' brains up to 70 years after the baby was born. Meaning, we literally carry our children's DNA with us for years and years and years and years and years. I think modern science says it takes at least 7 years to recover from pregnancy and childbirth. So we're talking about like have a good time at college. You're still you're in me. You're still in me. Yeah. I
Oh my
know.
God.
I know. So it's more like
Okay.
it's more learning than like for us it's more like learning you're not crazy. There's nothing that like you're safe, like you're safe, your kids are safe. You may feel like your brain is not safe, but it probably is. And your body's just adjusting to I mean, I think even just the going from pregnant to not pregnant within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like think about what a
Yeah.
huge shift that is. And how your hormones like are probably most of our hormones are probably like, what the fuck is happening? Like can I
Yeah.
swear? I don't know if you swear.
Yeah.
What is happening here? I was just growing a human and now I'm not, and I'm supposed to support this other thing again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's mad, isn't it? It's absolutely mad. And I just think as you kind of start to gear, like, I don't know how long the maternity leave is in the States, but here maternity leave isn't very
Ooh.
long. It's quite short. And
What is it?
so I feel like so here it's about 6 weeks. Most people normally take about 4, 5, 6 months, but like, you know, the companies have to give you 6 weeks, but that's it.
Okay.
And then you're kind of expected to go back to
Not a long
work.
time. Yeah.
No, it's not a long time. And I feel like, even if it's 4 or 5 months, once you kind of gotten over the initial shock of newborn life and everything that comes with that, lovely, but also at times very terrifying, at times quite horrendous, and at times most times probably very overstimulating. And then you throw in work on top of that, and it's just kind of this constant bombardment of basically trying to find your new normal. That's kind of how it feels like. You're trying to climb to kind of get to that level where you can be normal again. It's bloody hard.
Be the most productive you've ever been with the most limited resources you've ever had, and keep pushing.
Yeah, it's so easy to be a mum, hey? So easy in this modern day.
So maternity leave in the States is determined largely by the employer. And if you have under a certain amount of employees, there's no federally mandate, like they don't have to offer you leave. 1 in 4 American moms are returning to work after 2 weeks. But
oh my gosh.
that said, because I work in the employer consulting side too. So I'm seeing that companies are coming around to the fact that like, oh, right, someone coming back from work after 6 weeks is like not going to do a good job, and or they're going to quit, and the cost of hiring and training is greater than investing in your employees' wellness and making sure that that transition's okay for them.
When is, if you had the choice from a hormonal and mental health point of view, when is a good time to start possibly thinking about going back to work, or like when's the earliest? And how, as
Yeah.
mums, can we kind of juggle that massive change again?
Yes. So I
Another
think,
massive change.
I know, I think a big part of this is, unfortunately, at least for American families, like the financial need. So the financial need of the family tends to dictate when someone is going to go back to work, if they are going to go back to work, if they have to go back to work, regardless of the World Health Organization. I think the World Health Organization, I don't have it in front of me, their recommendation is, I think like a year to 18 months, something along those lines, like way longer than most moms are getting. And how do you prepare yourself for that shift? So some moms are really excited to go back to work. After like a month, they're like, I have fucking had it. I don't want to do this anymore. This is unrelenting. It's hard. I'm exhausted. I need to talk to adults. I need like a routine. And other moms are heartbroken because they have, let's say 2 months, and then they return to work after 2 months. And a lot of my work with those moms is not necessarily problem solving, but like setting up systems to make that transition easier. So like if you're most productive in the morning, stack your meetings in the morning so that you can have some, looser time in the afternoon. Like there are things that you can do, but when it's hard. Like sitting in an office pumping is not natural, I don't think. And not that
No.
not that fun.
No, 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 no. Luckily, I mean, I've worked for myself since having children, which comes with its own stresses, let's call
Yes,
it.
it's
So I've
seven.
never had to.
It's dinner time right now, and you haven't had dinner. Your kids are asleep. You're talking to me. Like, that's a hustle. That's a hustle.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I think the biggest thing, and I mean, again, you are, I'm guessing, self-employed, so you'll understand that in my mind, it's the constant battle of do I spend time with my kids
Yeah.
versus do I work?
Yeah.
And something, I think, we talk about this thing called balance like it's achievable, and it's bloody not. And I was listening actually to Emma Grede the other day on an interview. I can't remember who it was, and she said balance is unachievable. We need to stop talking about this thing called balance because we're not ever going to achieve that.
Yeah.
Some weeks I'm a great mum and other weeks I'm a great boss, and
Yes. Yeah.
very rarely do I nail both. And I think it's so, so true. And we do have to, as parents, as mums, really try and drop the guilt around wanting to work and wanting to achieve and wanting to do everything else, but also wanting to be good mums,
Yes.
essentially.
Like
Because it's
here I was 6 months ago writing a book on motherhood and perfectionism, like early motherhood and perfectionism, trying to write the best book I've ever written, feeling super guilty that I'm like at a library on a Saturday and not with my kids, and also writing a book that I feel really passionately about. And it's like balance is bullshit. Like there was nothing in that moment was going to make me feel 100% okay in either of those scenarios. Writing, I was going to feel guilty. Being with my kids, I was going to feel guilty that I wasn't writing. And we can make excuses all day long, or we can just say the expectation that we are going to be able to balance everything is just total bullshit.
It is, and we've got to drop it and we've got to stop doing it. And I mean, this book sounds great. Can you just tell me
Thanks.
more about the book?
Yeah,
And
so
give us some
yeah.
tips of how we can drop the
Yeah.
perfectionism, please.
Yeah, so the book is called The Myth of the Perfect Mom. It is slated
Love
to
it.
cut it is slated to come out for Mother's Day next year. Because I don't know how familiar you are with publishing, but it takes a long time. Traditional publishing takes a long time. So each chapter goes through a different topic. Like the first chapter is the myth of the perfect mom. So where did this come from? How do we exist in it now? And then like, how do we move past that? The second chapter is the myth of the perfect birth. So like, C-section moms feel like they need to explain away why they had a C-section. Like this idealized at-home, intervention-free, with a midwife, not in a hospital, no pain relief has sort of been idealized as this perfect way to give birth. Most of us don't have that. And a lot of moms don't want that. And so how did that become the standard? And then how did we move into feeling like having a C-section is a failure? And like, what's the line between the two? And then how do you process your own experience as like something you can be proud of outside of something you're beating yourself up for the rest of? And then there's a postpartum bounce back chapter. There's a the way you feed your baby chapter. There's a whole chapter on career and ambition, and kind of just going through all of these different myths of what makes the perfect mom, and how it's all bullshit. We've created it. It's all culture. It's all cultural, historical, religious, all of that.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, and when you said that, like the bounce back, I mean, the expectation on the bounce back is wild.
Like, what am I
It's
bouncing
absolutely-
back to? My organs were just in different parts of my body. Like, what do you like?
Yeah.
Yeah. So beyond just the physical, but also the emotional bounce back of like, why don't I feel like I felt before? And going into moms who were like, I made a mistake. Like, I love my kid, but I made a mistake and I miss my life. Like, I miss being able to travel. I miss being able to be spontaneous. I miss all of these things, and just really like being able to support moms in those moments, because those are totally normal things to think about.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. And I mean, I wanted to talk about this quickly before we kind of start to wrap up the conversation. But
Sure.
you know, baby blues, I feel like, I mean, I don't know the statistics, but I feel like most women to some degree experience baby blues. I think with the hormones and everything else, especially first time round, when, let's be honest, again, most of us don't really know what's going to happen when we bring that baby home.
Yeah.
People can tell you, you can read the books. You don't understand until you've been through it. I'm
No,
sorry. I just
true.
think that
agree.
is a fact. No one can really probably describe it to you. And also, I think when you're really pregnant, no one's going to say to you, it's going to be quite shit at times. Suck it up,
hard.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, here's,
But what is
I birthed in a hospital, so they were like, here's your baby. And I was like, thanks. My husband and I were like, do they think, like, who is entrusting us with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not capable for this job, honestly.
Baby blues.
But what
Yeah.
is the difference between baby blues and then, you know, postpartum depression and to the next step, psychosis, which you touched upon earlier?
Yeah, so I'll start with postpartum psychosis. Generally, the person experiencing it is a medical emergency. Generally, the person experiencing postpartum psychosis does not know that they are experiencing postpartum psychosis. And this is where it's really important that we have support systems who understand us and our mental health. Because if you were to say to someone, like, maybe are you hearing something that I might not be thinking? The person in postpartum psychosis isn't going to understand that they're not going to be able to clarify. So that's postpartum psychosis is the most extreme. Baby blues is generally the first 2 weeks in response to that hormone dip. And then they say that postpartum mood disorders is whatever comes after that. I like to tell moms, if after the 2-week mark you are avoiding being around your baby, you are incapable of like managing your daily functioning, so like even just brushing your teeth or washing your face, you don't want to be alone ever, that these are things to talk. Just it doesn't mean you're diagnosed with anything. It's just those are good markers that you might want to talk to someone.
And then what kind of help can be given to someone who might be struggling with postpartum depression?
Yeah, so I mean, most psychiatrists that I've ever known have told me that the perfect combination in postpartum is exercise, medication, and therapy. So the combination of not even like vigorous exercise, but movement. So movement, medications, and therapy are like the trifecta of moving through postpartum mood disorders. Lots of moms are hesitant to take medication because of nursing, but there's plenty of medications that are safe to nurse while taking. And I always at least just encourage, again, like a psychiatrist evaluation, just so you can get a sense of like, because I think too, a lot of moms who are experiencing mental health concerns, they minimize it. So being able to just be honest about what you're experiencing, but that's like the perfect trifecta. Talk therapy, time in the sun, medication management if called for and willing.
And then I wanted to touch upon identity because, again, I think every mum can relate to the fact that when you become a mum, you get this new title, but you also get a massive loss of identity and loss of a sense of self.
Yeah.
What kind of, I mean, again, like my take on this is that I've shed the skin of the person I was before. She's gone, or she's not with us anymore, and I'm grateful for that. I feel like she was great in
She served
my
her
20s.
purpose. Yes.
She did, and we had
Yes.
a lot of fun. We had a great time.
Yeah. Yes.
But I'm really glad that I'm not trying to find her again. I'm really glad that I've moved into the next phase of life.
Sometimes at the end of the day when I'm with my husband and the kids are sleeping and I'm like, and it's like 9 o'clock and I'm ready to go to sleep, I'm like, I used to be able to stay awake for like 3-day festivals. This is the same body that used to be able to do that. So I also have a whole chapter on the mom identity. I like to talk about this in terms of, instead of seeing becoming a mom as limiting, so like now I am just this, looking at motherhood as expansive. So I am everything that I was before and now I'm even more, and there's parts of me that are growing and learning and stretching and that just didn't exist, and that is a beautiful sign of growth as opposed to a sign of loss.
And if someone is really struggling with the sense of self or loss of identity, I mean, what is your advice on that? Like, is it wise to look backwards and try and find our old selves, or are there things that we can do to kind of find ourselves in this new way of life?
That's a complicated question, because if you have any sort of childhood trauma or unresolved parts of your life from when you were younger, those are going to likely come up in motherhood. And so being able to work through, perfectionism, fear of abandonment, all of those different pieces that like may be there for you, or disciplining. This comes up a lot with discipline. Like, well, I was screamed at. I don't want to be a mom that screams. How do I figure out who I am in that? So that's the first piece, is like, make sure that you've addressed your childhood hurts so that you can move forward from them and parent from a place of authenticity instead of a place of reaction and pain. And so like if a mom, I mean, you have a more sophisticated way of saying it than most moms would say. Most moms wouldn't say like, oh, what, my identity is totally changed and I don't know who I am. It usually comes up in things like, I miss. They tell me what they're missing from their past, from their life before babies. And then you can honor that and you can honor that. And also, so I use this metaphor a lot with new moms. When you think about a seed, before a seed becomes a flower, what it goes through looks like to the outside complete and total destruction, right? It cracks open, things start growing out of it, it pushes away the things around it, and then with support and time and love and water and sunshine, it grows into a beautiful flower. So I like to use that metaphor as like early motherhood is like your seed is you are self-destructing, and there's something on the other end of that.
It is so true. It is so true. And I actually do think that, again, I feel like if you can look past all the scary, quite overwhelming stuff, you are building a strength that you probably never knew you had, which I do think is quite lovely.
I mean, you are literally growing, you're growing new roots. Like, that's a lot of work. Yeah. But it's also so natural. True. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It is okay to, I feel like, mourn your former self and feel a loss of identity, because your world has literally been turned upside down. Yeah. I wanted to end about talking about boundaries.
Sure.
setting boundaries with your husband,
Yeah.
setting boundaries with friends,
Yeah.
setting boundaries with family members. There's always a good one. How can we set boundaries? Because again, I think as mums, we genuinely put ourselves to the bottom of the pile. We want to serve everybody else before we serve ourselves, children including, and it's important that we set boundaries. Can you explain how we can do that?
Sure. So before you can set a boundary, you have to know what your boundary is. That's the very first
like
part.
this.
I hate to say this, but it starts with us. So before you can set a boundary, we can use the mother-in-law example. Say she's overstepping, right? So I have a mother-in-law who's overstepping her boundaries, my boundaries. She's showing up unannounced. Let's use that as the example. My mother-in-law is showing up unannounced. So before you can acknowledge that that is something that you don't like, before you can communicate that that's something that you don't like, you have to acknowledge that that's something that you don't like. So we have to stop making excuses for the people around us. We have to figure out what we want and what works for us. We have to work with our support systems in finding ways to communicate those things. So like, hey, I love you and I love spending time with you, and it is really challenging for me when you just show up at the house. Can you give me a warning? Or if you're wanting to come over, can you tell me you're wanting to come over and we can find a time? It is much easier for me to work in time frames than spur of the moment when I don't know what is going to be happening at home, if I'm going to be home, if my kids are going to be sick or decent, or, you know, all of the different things. But I think establishing healthy boundaries is always going to start with knowing what you want. And I think that is the really challenging part for a lot of new moms, because we are so default, like you said, our default is to please. And so saying no feels terrifying. But people aren't mind readers. So if you don't say it, then it's not going to get said.
Yeah, exactly. And actually on the mind reading thing, I remember when I had my first kid, I was almost expecting my husband to do things. And then I'd get really angry. I was furious at him all the time because he just wasn't meeting my expectation, the expectation that I had set for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wasn't communicating. And again, as brilliant as they are,
he probably had
not mind readers.
he probably had absolutely no idea what you were thinking, what you were needing, what you were wanting, what would have been helpful for you. Yeah. So I think
always
I think
set the
too,
boundary and
assuming best intentions and making sure you're communicating what your needs are, will allow you to move through postpartum without hating everybody in your life.
I love that. I mean, we always end our podcast with one tip and one product, and I feel like you've just shared the ultimate tip.
Well, good. Oh, great. Yeah. So there you go.
Love that.
Yeah.
We always do, as I said, we always round off with a tip and a product. So could you share, I mean, you've shared your tips, so you don't have to share another one, but if you have any more, please do share. And if you have a product recommendation that you could share to help us survive
Product recommendation.
the roller coaster.
So my first did not actually, both of my babies loved baby wearing. So my second loved the Soli wrap and my first one loved the Ergo Baby. And so those were products that I found very much worth the money, because I could get stuff done, and they, you know, babies want a contact nap. So it made life a lot easier. That's one product. And then, oh man, I don't even remember what it's called, but also like Earth Mama Organic, their like nipple butter was the best thing ever. So those are, but also don't go buy a bunch of shit. Borrow stuff and see what your kids like, and then buy stuff, because they're all different. For our son, we got this like really nice bassinet, and it was beautiful, and it looked nice in our house and all of the things. And like, he would be in a deep sleep, and we would put him down, and immediately he would start crying. Immediately. Like, you have to keep in mind, our babies grow hearing our heartbeat. Like, that's the soundtrack of their lives. And so, but baby wearing, I loved baby wearing. It made my life much easier.
Me too.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, I'm second that. I have an Ergo Baby, and it is just a game changer. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and it like the support on your own body feels good too. It just feels good.
It does. It really does. And Erin, for anyone who wants to reach out, say hi, get in touch.
Sure.
Or find the new book, where can they find you?
Yes. So the easiest place to find me is 4th Trimester wellness on Instagram. And then there's a gazillion ways you can reach me from there, but that's the most accessible.
Amazing. Erin, you have been mega. Honestly, I feel like
thank
I wrote
you.
you loads of questions that I was going to ask you, and I feel like I've not asked you any, and we've just gone off on a brilliant conversation.
Yeah, thank
And
you
I
so much for
loved
having
it.
me. What are you having for dinner? Have you decided?
I'm having a Thai chicken curry. It's
delicious.
hopefully
Yum.
going to have been cooked. I did very clearly communicate with my husband, heat up food. It's
There you
basically
go.
cooked, so it's a very easy
There
task.
you
So
go.
let's hope.
Okay,
that
well,
he's,
enjoy,
more than-
enjoy, and thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Wait 2 seconds. I'm
Okay.
just going to...
Yeah.